Welcome, friends. Welcome back to the kitchen. Welcome back to Sunday Morning and the Old Cookbook Show. Um, in my timeline, in my reality, this is the first video for me after vacation. I have not been here in the studio kitchen for 2 months. It's been nice to take some time off. I mean, I worked really hard in the months leading up to being able to take off 2 months. I had to, make all of those videos, get them edited, get them programmed, get all the metadata, have everything. Like, that was really tiring. But having time off where you can just sort of sit and recharge and think about fun things rather than work is incredibly important. And it was very valuable to me to just kind of relax and come back fresh. I'm going to do something fairly easy today, just to kind of ease myself back into filming and cooking and doing everything. On Wednesday's video, shot before I went away on vacation, we opened a box of books, and this little nugget was in there from American Kitchens. This one kind of caught my eye, mostly because it's published here in Toronto, published by a group here in Toronto that I'd never heard of, which isn't, all that odd. The world is a big place. Toronto is a big city. It's a group that has been around since 1917, and I looked them up just before I started. In 2024, they are still active in Toronto. They do a lot of charity work. It's a group for American women, citizens of the United States, born in the United States, who now live in Toronto because they work in Toronto or for whatever reason. They do a lot of charity group work, and they also it's just camaraderie. And the other thing that drew me to this book is that it's in script, it's in code, and it's a community cookbook, and each recipe is, I think, in the handwriting of the person who gave it into the book, which is fantastic. So they've recreated from their handwriting every recipe, and I kind of love that. We're going to do something called a pineapple upside down cake. Fairly simple, fairly easy to do. Something that I have had millions of times in my life, but I have not had lately. And I'm kind of looking forward to this. So it says to use a 9-inch pan. I have a 9-inch stainless steel pan here. We're going to heat that up. And to the pan, I'm going to add butter and brown sugar. And we're just going to melt those two together. Okay, so I've got this on fairly low heat. I don't want it to burn. I've got lots of time before I actually need to come back to this pan. So just going to let that go. Need to separate some eggs. We are going to whip the egg whites separately than the yolks. So as much as Julie and I were on vacation for 2 months, we did spend the last 3 weeks filming for the other channel. And it's going to take a long time before I get those videos edited together. But you'll be able to see part of our vacation. And to the egg yolks, we're going to beat in white sugar and some pineapple juice. Okay, this has melted together really nicely. You're never going to mix in all of the butter with the sugar. So at this point, I'm going to turn the heat off, and we'll start adding the pineapple slices in. Okay, now the dry ingredients, we'll just get those prepped. I've got flour, baking powder, and salt. I'll just give that a little bit of a stir together. Set it aside. This is mixed together. The dry is mixed together. I need to whip the egg whites. I'm using a copper bowl. You don't need to use a copper bowl at all. What I love about a copper bowl is that it gives you really the perfect egg white. There's a chemical reaction between the egg white and the copper, which changes the protein structure, blah, 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 blah. And you get a really nice egg white. The problem that I encounter with people is when they see the end product, the end result, is that they say that's not stiff. Our perception of what stiff egg white means has changed, and I find that a lot of people, and I've said this before, you're probably, if you're a regular viewer, your eyes are glazing over. People today whip their egg whites far too stiff until they're dry, and then the water starts to separate out at the bottom, or starts to reach a point where water can separate out at the bottom. That's too far. You've whipped them too far. Whereas this method, that can't happen. You could whip them all day long, and they're not going to reach that point. They're just going to reach a point where it's silky smooth. And when a lot of recipes that use this technique for leavening were invented in the 16, 17, 1800s, copper bowl was in every kitchen. And that's what people meant when they meant stiff. So there's not a lot of egg white from 2 eggs, but whipped up really nicely. Now, we just mix the dry ingredient into the wet. We will need to add a little bit more of the pineapple liquid. So, what does it say? 4 more tablespoons of pineapple juice. So another 1/4 cup of pineapple juice. Rest of the flour. Pretty good. Okay, now fold in the egg whites. You want to be careful, but I mean, people overstate how careful you need to be. The first one, the first part that you put in, the first half or first third, depending on how much egg white you have, you can be a little more aggressive, especially if you've over whipped them and they're super dry. You're going to have to be really aggressive to get them mixed in. The beauty of this consistency is that they mix into the batter so much more nicely. They really do hold their air longer than the ones that are dry and fragile. Take your time. Don't rush it, but at the same time, don't get super frustrated if it's not mixing in. Just mix a little harder. All right, swirl it around, fold it in. There you go. It's in. Okay. Now, I was worried that our pan was maybe a little bit too shallow. I'm still maybe a little bit worried. We'll get this in and we'll see what happens. I think we might be okay. Okay. Into the oven. It says a medium oven for 1/2 hour to 3/4 hour. I've got a baking sheet in there just in case it bubbles over. See what happens.
Hey, Glenn.
Hey, Jules.
Hey, friends.
Forks.
Okay. That's a big piece of cake. Cake.
It is cake. It's pineapple upside down cake.
I love pineapple upside down cake. I have a cousin who's this is their favorite.
From American Kitchens. The American Women's Club of Toronto. Copyright 1949.
Huh. Interesting.
They still exist.
It's a classic.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's, I'm guessing brown sugary, buttery pineapple with a white cake.
Yeah.
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 It's great.
A little bit different on the white cake because you whipped the egg whites and then folded them in. But I mean, it's the classic, overly sweet, upside down.
Apparently, Glenn
cake.
thinks it's overly sweet. Because you always struggle with the pineapple bits, right?
It is overly sweet.
Here we go.
Which in this case isn't such a bad thing.
The way it's
but
supposed to be.
It's supposed to be that way. Anyway, it's a classic. Great interpretation of a classic. Give it a try. Thanks for stopping by. See you again soon. So in the ever-changing landscape of YouTube, if you want to help this channel out, if you want to help us grow or maintain or continue to provide this content, content is free for you to watch, but it costs real money to make. So if you subscribe and like, that would be great. And if you would like one of these snazzy aprons, the link is down below. They're made in Canada, they're high quality, and since announcing them, the first ones have arrived.
Hey, hurrah!
To viewers like you who have purchased them, and the reviews so far have been great. People really like them. They're sturdy. You're going to buy it once, and you'll never buy another apron.